Welcome to Alert Tales, where we uncover the most powerful, real-life stories that will leave you speechless. If you're drawn to tales that stir emotions, spark discussions, and bring us closer together, you've found your new home. Be sure to subscribe and become part of our community, so you never miss a story that will keep you hooked and wanting more. My aunt ruined the birth of my child, and I can't forgive her. I, a 39-year-old woman, had a baby girl a few months ago. Because I'm older and single, this is likely the only pregnancy and childbirth experience I'll ever have. The dad is involved, but was in a different state for work at the time of my early necessary C-section. When I was 37 weeks, the doctors flagged a potential complication and sent me straight from my appointment to the hospital to give birth. Thankfully, everyone is healthy. During my pregnancy, I daydreamed about new motherhood. One of the things I was excited about was how I would announce the birth. I wanted to get a nice photo and to choose who I tell first. Here's where my aunt comes in. My aunt, who is over 70, is something of a known well-meaning pain in the ass throughout the family. She's incredibly pushy. She finds some new trend, like tapping or yoga, and insists it will fix everyone's life if they do it. It doesn't matter how many times you say no, she'll leave pamphlets under the windshield wipers of your car. Many of her sentences begin with, "I know you said you don't like this, but," "I know you told me not to," "but," "I know you won't agree, but," it's honestly enraging. Thing is, because my baby needed to be born early, my support person wasn't available. I have no siblings, my dad passed many years ago, my mother was extremely abusive during my childhood, and has no interest in being in my life now that I'm an adult. My best friend lives pretty far away and has young kids. My child's dad was out of state for work, so I really had nobody to be with me. I appreciated my aunt's willingness to be there, and since I don't have a mother, so to speak, I really felt like I couldn't be too choosy if someone was willing to be there for me. So I put up with a lot of boundary crossing, a lot of insisting I try this or that while I was in a ton of pain and stress. She tried to push me to do meditation and I said no like 5 times, but an hour later when I was in pain from the failed induction or getting my blood drawn, she'd clasp her hands and say, "You want to try the meditation now?" The big issue is what happened after my C-section. It was about 11 p.m. I was still shaky from the anesthesia. I was nauseous and numb. My daughter was only about 2 hours old. I was still processing what happened. Helpless and unable to walk, barely able to think. My aunt stood over my bed, literally hovering over me, and asked if she could text the family to tell them I'd given birth. I told her no. She said, "Why not?" All I could repeat was no. She kept asking me why not. Then finally she said, "I don't accept that answer, OP. There are people who are worried about you, and we need to tell them right now." I told her I hadn't even told the father yet, and she nodded and said, "Okay, I'll step out for 1 minute so you can call him, and then when I come back in, we're telling the family." I was so numb and so tired and so confused, literally full of anesthesia, literally paralyzed and holding my daughter. I'd been a mom for less than 3 hours. I didn't know what was even happening. I called the dad and told him, and then when my aunt burst back in, I hung up with him. I don't even remember the conversation. She then stood over me and made me text the family. All I had was a blurry photo of my daughter, covered in blood and grease, wrapped hastily in a hospital towel. The following morning, a hospital photographer came and took beautiful pictures of my daughter in a nice swaddle with the hat I'd brought from home and a shiny pink ribbon. That is the photo I wanted to give to my family. But instead, the first photo that her dad and all of my friends and family saw is some blurry, bloody photo that my aunt took. Thinking about it now still makes me actually shake with rage. The dad is incredibly pissed as well. He feels like that moment was taken from him too. I did tell my aunt about this after I had time to process, and she apologized, but she's learned nothing. She continues to overstep. For my birthday, she gave me a present to mommy from my daughter, and that's the first gift from my daughter. I feel like that's something that her dad should have been able to do for me, or for my actual daughter to do when she's older. But even though we're not really that close, my aunt keeps acting like she's more involved than she actually has any right to be. She has 2 adult kids, both married, both in their 40s, and both having expressed no desire to have kids. She makes a lot of comments about if my daughter was her grandchild, etc. She even tried to use me to convince her DIL to have kids. The more time passes, the more mad I get. That is my only child. That is the biggest day of my life. Even if I live to be 100, and even if I have 5 more kids, there's only one first. But all I see when I look back on that day is my aunt standing over my bed, phone in hands, waggling her fingers, eyes wide, talking in her hyper voice about how I need to tell everyone right now at 11 p.m. I don't know what to do. She said she was sorry, but that doesn't fix it. She has since done more things to show me her behavior will never change. When my daughter was a few days old, she brought a house cleaner to my home and made me pay them $600. They bleached the house and it stank so badly that I took my daughter out to the car. It was 25 degrees out, so I just sat in the heated car, holding my newborn baby, sobbing because I couldn't take it anymore. I called another family member and she came and got me and the baby, and I sat on her couch and cried for hours about how awful this has been. My aunt still doesn't get it. She thinks she helped me and that I'm just being unreasonable. My child's dad, who is the most mild-mannered, calmest, chillest, nicest guy, snarls a little bit when this aunt's name comes up. He tells me to stop answering her calls, and to be honest, I have started to do that. But the anger never goes away.